of the GPL will apply throughout our meeting. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, this basically means that this area that we are in is now treated as the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. So all the different rules that you will see on TV around Parliament, etc., all of those rules apply here. I want to officially open the meeting and welcome the members of the Portfolio Committee. I'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves in a moment. I also want to welcome the MEC and the HOD of Cogta, as well as the officials from the department, and very importantly, our stakeholders who are joining us today. Again, a humble apology from us. I hope you had lunch, so hopefully you're in not so much of a bad mood as the guys sitting next to me. Before we go to the apologies, no, they're not in a happy mood because I pulled out, as you saw me, I had to go pull them out from eating lunch, so they're not happy with me. But I understand that, they've got something in their system, so we won't eat each other alive. Member Ngube, if you can introduce yourself first.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to the MEC and his team, and all the stakeholders that are here. My name is Honorable Pinky Ngube. I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Member Nico de Jager, and I am also a member of this committee. Thank you.
Afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Mziku Malo, the MEC for Cogta eGov Research and Development. Thanks.
Right, and then HOD.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, honorable members, MEC. My name is Darian Barclay. I am the HOD of Cogta.
Right, excellent. Thank you very much. Yes, it's HOD of both at the moment. Like I say, we're blessed. We have two HODs in one. On a lighter note, can I get the apologies, Charlene, from you officially?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I received the following apologies. Member Delanga, she's attending a study tour. Member Salij, she's attending to party business. Member Malema is busy with his exams. Member Msimanga is also attending to party business. Thank you very much, Chair.
I'm going to squabble about that later, not in front of our stakeholders, Member Diafe. I will squabble with my counterparts in other political parties. Today is an official committee day, so there should be nobody who's doing party business, but I will reserve that for a private offline discussion. Members, we're in a difficult position. We're going to have to accept the apologies so that we reach a quorum, given the fact that there's 3 of us here today, and that's why I'm not entertaining the discussion in a great level of detail. Can we flight the agenda, please? Members do have it in their email. It's very simple. Today we're dealing with the annual report of the Department of Cogta, followed by the second quarter performance report. We have already sent our questions through, and they will also be focusing on the response there, and then it's just really minutes. There is a lot more work that we need to do, but we got sent documentation quite late. So to my knowledge, Sizwe is still working on some of the analysis, but that will be in the following meeting. Members, can I get anyone who seeks to confirm or perhaps adopt the agenda?
Thank you, Chair. I move to adopt. Member de Jager.
Thanks, Member de Jager. Can I get a seconder?
I second, Honorable Chairperson.
All right, thank you very much. Agenda is duly adopted. I'm going to hand over to yourself, MEC. I know we're all on a bit of a time pressure because we've started late, but we're going to do the annual performance report first and then take the second quarter, and then I'll allow members to engage as a holistic process. If I'm correct, we are doing annual report first. No, my apologies. I'm actually incorrect. We're doing the annual report today, not the second quarter. That will be reserved for the next meeting. That was the delay in what was sent to us. All right, over to you, MEC.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the members of the portfolio committees, also acknowledging the different stakeholders that are here, including the officials from both the department and the legislature itself. I would preface the presentation that is going to be made by the HOD. So in his inaugural State of the Province address, Premier Lesofie implored us, I quote, to do one thing and one thing only, to do our work. to do our work within the budget time without misusing public funds, close quotes. To this end, the following serves as a core function of our department. There are 5 elevated priorities of the 6th administration, and the department is also responding to those 5 elevated, and these are economic recovery and acceleration, strengthening the battle against crime, corruption, vandalism, and lawlessness, prioritization of health and wellness of communities in township, informal settlement, and in hostels, what we call TISH, strengthening the capacity of the state to deliver services, capacitate government communication so that government can communicate better with its residents. You will see that our presentation will largely be dealing with the building the capacity of the state to enable the state to deliver. Our responsibility is to ensure that municipalities discharge their constitutional mandate and the responsibility of improving the living condition of citizens, in particular in the TISH communities. Functional political intergovernmental relations are important to strengthen collaboration and coordination to promote ethical and accountable leadership across the spheres of government. Chair, we want to say that we have seen improvement. If you recall, we were not happy the other time given the coalition governments that exist in municipalities and so on. I must say that the situation has improved drastically. A number of our municipalities do participate in the IGR process, including Tshwane, of course. Our target was to have 100% of undisputed invoices paid within 15 days during the reporting period, with the department achieving 95% of this. The 4.5% of these invoices were not paid due to delays within the procurement process or as such, or the payment process. In the annual report under the question or under review, the department have continued to ensure compliance with good corporate governance, robust internal control, and compliance with the legislation. The Auditor General, there are a number of issues that came from Auditor General. Therefore, will indicate in the report that the Auditor General was satisfied with the internal control environment, but they've raised administrative matters such as policy development for improvement. Hence, the audit outcome that the department have reached. Without any waste of time, Chair, having prefaced our detailed presentation, would then, through you, ask the HOD to make the presentation as expected. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, MEC, and thank you very much, Chairperson and all the colleagues. If we go into the next few slides, Chairperson, I think it's important to note that the annual report comprises of 5 parts. The first part deals with the general information. The second part deals with performance information. Part C deals with governance. Part D deals with HR matters, and Part E deals with the annual financial statements. So we have taken the annual report and provided a high-level overview of what's contained in there. The annual report is public knowledge at this point in time. As part of the executive summary, Chairperson, what is important to note is what the MEC has just indicated. And key focus areas for the department is, of course, service delivery, revenue collection, financial management, including the development of municipalities. But more importantly is the stabilization, but then also functional municipalities within Gauteng. On the next slide, we just give a high-level sense of the work that we are doing. If you look at the budget structure of the department, the function of local government takes the biggest portion of the budget. And similarly, so the questions emanating from the research analysis from the portfolio committee signifies that, because most of the questions is centered on program 2 and centered on program 3. So we just demonstrate the work that we are doing in Midvaal, in Lesedi, and the work that we have done on the Gauteng Spatial Development Framework. Importantly, we need to make sure that all municipalities plan properly, all municipalities observe compliance with bylaws and compliance with legislation. On the next slide, we just preface some of the issues relating to traditional institutional management The commission is now fully functional, although during the period under review, we have seen some marginal underspending in that particular area. From a governance perspective, if we want to ensure that municipalities are working, the governance framework of the department needs to be working and it needs to be functionally in place. So both the HOD dealing with municipal managers and the MEC dealing with the Troika on the one end, Mayor's Forum, but then also the Speakers Forum. Those are key processes as part of governance. And important to note is, once we have challenges in municipalities, we have now also resorted to one-on-one engagements with these municipalities where we are. On the next slide, Chairperson, important, you will see throughout the report, there is a number of areas where we have indicated we have placed experts in municipalities to provide the capacity and support, but that experts is augmented by the support that's provided by Cogta. And on the other hand, there's also support provided by the provincial treasury. This is a very important part of our work, simply because if you look at municipalities over the years, revenue has plummeted. They have also lost key staff. They need to appoint new staff, but to get an understanding of the municipality does take a little bit of time. But some of the capacity in the municipalities has been eroded. There is times when we even need to look at basic areas such as contract management, legal matters, labor relations matters, because if we don't monitor the expenditure of those, the cost can be huge, because appointing attorneys just to provide opinions without anything being done will cost you hundreds of thousands of rands. So key part of our work relates to how we ring-fence support and how do we ring-fence experts in municipalities. We have asked the MEC to approve the appointment of a panel of service providers, or should I say, not service providers, but a panel of former municipal managers, former chief financial officers, where there is a need to place people in that municipality. Once the MEC and the mayor agrees, we can place the dedicated capacity. To appoint a person in an acting capacity, their chairperson, will not work, and it doesn't bear the fruits that you need, because you have a person that must still do his work but still look after the financial affairs of the municipality. So from a support perspective, that is also key for us. We have seen in the past, as we demonstrate on the next slide, that with the amendment of the Municipal Systems Act, certain responsibilities is placed on the MEC to ensure that local government do comply when it comes to the appointment of senior officials in the municipality, specifically the municipal manager and those senior managers directly accountable to the municipal manager. And where there is non-compliance, the MEC has a right to take steps with those municipalities, those that are in contravention of that. I think from a high-level perspective, I think it's important that we need to know that. Chair, I would like to briefly touch on the report of the Auditor General on the next slide. What the Auditor General said about the department is that the department have submitted annual financial statements that are free from material misstatements. The current status of the department, that is both financial and non-financial, is a true reflection of the department, and the Auditor General expressed what he calls an unqualified opinion with no reportable findings, and it means no material findings, which means that the audit outcome is clean. But of course, the AG needs to make sure that we comply with best practices, and the AG has issued 14 housekeeping findings for us. One of those is, as MEC indicated, it's part of policy development. And on the next slide, we just detail some of those findings. Relates to leave management, performance agreements, the human resources plan, policies that needs to be reviewed. All of those, if we meet with the time frames, we can actually reduce the findings, housekeeping findings, by 50%. So it's an area that we need to look at. It's some of the internal control environment. So the same robustness that we have when it comes to financial management, and the same robustness should be applied when it comes to the sum of control measures that we need to apply to ensure that we reduce that findings. Key under the Auditor General's work also on the next slide is the Auditor General indicated that we had material underspending for the year, and it amounted to about 19 million. Program 1 administration is about 5.5 million. Program 2, 11 million. Program 3, it's only 0.2 million, and then Program 4 was about 4.2 million. And in all the areas, compensation plays a key part, and some of the other deliverables in relation to the Commission of Inquiry, or should I say the Commission on the Disputes that was appointed only later. You should see a gradual increase in spending in that programs. But Chair, I must also now caution, we are now in the new financial year. We are in Q3. We received a directive from the National Treasury that we need to apply cost containment measures. Cost containment measures would apply to all your non-core items. What it automatically means is we will incur underspending. And where we have our budget reduced as a result of the baseline cut in the equitable share, we will then have to ring fence pressure areas and areas of non-core. We have to move that to the core areas of our functions. So it's just important to note that, but we also sit with a peculiar situation that when the wage settlement agreement has been signed, often in the budget you have about 5% limited for increase, but the wage agreement would often say it's 6%. So Treasury won't give you the extra 1%. So I always take a cautious approach. When it comes to compensation of employees, we appoint critical staff, we create a buffer in compensation of employees, because if there is a need to add the 1%, depending on what the wage agreement is, you don't have a problem. And you have savings in your coffers to actually do that. So that is the basis for why in some areas we do incur underspending, Chairperson. And of course, compliance with legislation is a very key part of the work that the department are doing. There were no material findings on compliance with laws and regulations. And on the next slide, we're just detailing that all the programs spent well above 90%, and it's only Program 4 that spent 79%. But if you look at the budget in comparison with Program 2, that had a budget of 276 million, Program 4 only had a budget of 16 million. 20 million and 16 million was spent. So the underspending, despite 79%, if you look at it from financial terms, it is quite low. A key part of our work, Chair, in the year under review was how we need to build the capacity to drive performance delivery of the department. And building the capacity of the state on the next slide, we're just sharing with you that there was a cost of living adjustment where we have set aside based on the salary agreement, and the process of the organizational review has been finalized, documents has been signed, the analysis are now being done by the Office of the Premier, and we should be in a position to get feedback from the Minister of Public Service Administration. Chair, due to the number of appointees that we have made at senior management level, which is limited, we have not attained the 50% split between men and women. I do intend to place some men on early retirement, Chair, so that I can make space for women. But due to the number of appointees that we had, I see there's some people that volunteer. So, yeah. So, Chair, the human resources plan is very clear that as we appoint more, females is priority as we appoint more. And we're just giving the statistics on the next slide. And with a few resignations just before year end, we were sitting comfortably at about 9.1% on a vacancy rate. And with a few resignations towards the end of the financial year, we are sitting at 13%. Since the new financial year, we have now brought it down to about 11.1%. So we should be getting into the statutory 10% as required by the legislation. So, Chair, if we go into governance, I think this is the most important area. The governance areas is a demonstration of where the department are in terms of its maturity, compliance with laws and regulations, achievement of performance targets, planning, but then also practicing good corporate governance. And I can say that the internal audit activities has been fully implemented. There is a few areas where the findings still needs to be implemented, and the action plans fully developed and then operationalized. But the audit committee, from a governance perspective, has expressed satisfaction with the internal controls of the department. The audit committee have indicated that we should not wait for action plans to become overdue, but whilst it's still within the timeframes, that the department should implement those. But other than that, the internal auditors have raised findings on all the audits that they have done. There are very limited material findings, and it's for that reason why the audit committee have also expressed satisfaction with the levels of internal controls that has been implemented. Chair, on the next few slides is just the financial performance. I think it's important to note that we have prefaced where we are in terms of the budget for the period under review and the areas where we have underspent, and those are also now in the public domain. But as we progress, Chair, yesterday we had the opportunity to present to the Premier's Budget Council, and the instruction from the Premier's Budget Council was very clear. Please tell us what can you save, and please tell us how you can do more with less, because we do not have funds, the equitable share has been reduced, and then the allocation from departments will have to be reduced as well. So we'll have to do more with less. The programs that will be affected will majorly be program 2 and 3, because that's where the biggest portion of the budgets go. But of course, we cannot stop the work in municipalities. It will take some time for us to really bring the municipalities back to stabilization and where we are. Chair, I want to skip the next few slides because it just gives you the high level performance. It gives you the figures in terms of the different programs, and it also gives you the figures in terms of the economic classification. And on the next slide, the overview of the non-financial performance, it's also important, because if you cannot create a balance between performance financially and performance from a non-financial perspective, you cannot have a great disjuncture. So the overall performance on non-financial performance was 87% against 91% with the budget that has been spent. If you have a 5% difference between the two, I think it's normally acceptable, but you cannot have a much bigger variance. You spend more money, but there is no delivery from a non-financial perspective. And the next few slides just detail the areas that we have focused on, but then also it share with the committee the areas of non-performance, and where the areas of non-performance are, we are indicating the mitigation measures that needs to be implemented. Chair, the province have asked us that all of us must start to pay service providers within 10 to 15 days, but the statutory deadline of 30 days remain. So as a department, we increasing the targets. We are at 15 days. We want to move back to about 10 days, because as Cogta, we cannot regress, because if we regress, how do we get municipalities to perform if we regress? So we need to set the example so that we can preach to municipalities to improve. Chair, that is the report from the annual report, a very high level report. Chair, the committee raised a lot of questions where the committee wanted responses. If you will allow, Chair, I can go through the responses immediately and we can then open up, but I'll be guided by you, Chair.
I think let's do that so we can understand it in its totality.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Chair, we have structured the responses into programs as the committee has indicated. Can we load the responses for the benefit of the members? Chair, under program 1, mainly under program 1 was the issues relating to employment equity, and that's on slide 6. Employment equity and how do we broaden the scope of recruitment. One thing with the public service is quite rigid. You need to advertise in the national media if it's a SMS position, and if it's any other position, you still need to advertise it in a manner that it can attract all the demographics. And in addition to that, you can look at other areas, consulting with people with disabilities, looking at recruitment agencies, the presidency specifically. We are engaging with the presidency a lot, but the Disability Rights Directorate in the Office of the Premier, we are working closely with them. so that we can increase the number of people with disabilities in the area. We want to specifically, when we target interns, when we target graduates, that we take a bigger cohort of just the 5% into the department, because once you take a bigger cohort of those in the department, you can then, once you offer permanent employment or you let them compete for permanent employment, you can then achieve your employment equity targets in terms of that. When it comes to payment of service providers, Chair, and that's on the next slide, that's on slide 8, we say that we have fully paid service providers in 30 days, but 39 service providers that were not settled in the 15 days is the ones that were paid after 15 days, but within the 30-day period. So it is only the 39. But other than that, we have fully complied, and as per the directive of the Premier, we need to ensure that we fast-track that. Chair, some of the key questions on the next slide that was raised was the bursaries that was given to learners with disabilities, and those are the details there, and those are the NQF levels that's there, and that's also the number of the disciplines that we have where we have allocated bursaries. And on the next slide, we just provide the details of the NQF level 3, the NQF level 4, and also 5. And key under this is also the area that deals with accountability and ethical conduct. The cost per learner on the next slide, Chair, as you have requested for NQF level 3, it was 25,000, we have 18,000, and then also 27,000. For accountability and ethical conduct, you see it's much lower than the others because that was only a program for the week. And that is the part that deals with all the program 1 questions. Chair, under program 2, and this is where the biggest concentration of the responses are, and it all deals with the support that we have provided to municipalities, the challenges that municipalities have, and where the department can intervene. And Chair, the word intervention by the department, you can only do that through the MEC once certain processes has been followed. If the department, or should I say the municipality, are flouting any procedures, the department must inform the municipality to remedy the situation. We write to the mayor, we write to the speaker. If the situation is not remedied in a certain period of time, only then the MEC can exercise his right. So when it comes to disciplinary matters, when it comes to cases of fraud and corruption, we can refer a matter to the municipality. Often the Public Service Commission refer cases to us. When it comes to a municipality, we refer the case to the municipality for investigation, give them 30 days. Based on the complexity of the investigation, you give them 60 to 90 days, they would then report. If they fail that executive obligation, then the department would intervene. And in most cases, Chair, that some of these investigation relates to fraud and corruption, flouting of supply chain management procedures. It's also about theft, irregular appointments. Irregular appointments is something that has come out quite a lot in the past, but I trust with the amendment to the Act that deals with the appointment of senior managers, you should have that lower. When it comes to the disciplinary matters, Chair, the MEC can be informed by any interested party about there is no consequence management. As the MEC, we write to the municipality. It's a responsibility that is vested in council. If that obligation that they are supposed to exercise fails, then the provincial government gets involved. So it's quite a tedious structural process in the municipality, and we need to comply with it. Chair, when it comes to training on slide 15 onwards, we do say that yes, we do outsource training, but we try to use the state resources when it comes to training, specifically the National School of Government, also the Gauteng City Region Academy, and the GCRA. They do have service providers that work with them as well when it comes to the training. A key question is also, Chair, that what were the impact of some of these training that we have embarked upon? One of the key things that we have focused on was the training of councillors, the training of municipal public accounts committees, and we have obviously done that in collaboration with National Cogta. We get Salga involved and also other players, but also as part of the Local Governance Anti-Corruption Forum, these entities are also involved. Important to note that in a case where training is provided, Chair, you will only see the impact of that afterwards. One of the key things that the AG raised was issues of leadership, and we have tried through the Performance Monitoring and Evaluation Unit to fast-track concurrence when it comes to senior managers, but then also asking municipalities to write to us on the status of the appointment of senior managers in the municipality so that we can track. But internal controls, internal management of the AG's action plan is an area that was significantly lacking. So the training of those MPECs was important. So I'm keenly interested to see what the audit outcomes of the municipalities will be now, so that we can see to what extent there's some of the interventions paid off. We have seen that some of the interventions in terms of legal and labor has paid off. In terms of revenue management, it has paid off because revenue has increased. But whether that can be sustained is also another area. Chair, on the next few slides, I think community engagement is something that the municipalities needs to go back to basics to. That whenever they prepare their IDPs, whenever there is infrastructure delivery in the townships, that they bring the communities on board. But the ABCD approach is exactly what it entails, to actually facilitate community participation. And we are not saying that we're taking over the role of the municipalities, but the role of the municipalities must be at the center of delivery, and they need to ensure that there is community engagement, but then also a holistic approach. Getting communities involved, but then also getting SMMEs involved, and also local players. What you often find, infrastructure delivery is often delayed. Communities only see a board coming up, contractors are coming on site, but the community has not been consulted. Often you have delays, and when there is a contractor appointed, Chair, you often will find, why is the budget spent, but there is nothing done. Once you have made that contractor an appointment, you actually incur costs for standing time. So it's important that once the municipalities finalize their budget, these packages are advertised in the local newspapers. They invite the community to participate. They invite a portion of local SMMEs to participate. And you will see that you have stoppages in infrastructure projects being limited. But the assessment that we have made when I was in the office of the Premier over the last 5 years, the main reason why communities stop projects is because of the lack of consultation, and we bring people in from another city to work in one community, and we have asked municipalities to guard against that, because in the end, letters are written to the MEC and where we need to involve. Some of the community concerns that has been raised, in most cases, these concerns are not addressed at the speed at which we wanted. We often say that these should be addressed in 48 hours. Structural issues can be longer, but we need to report back to the communities. From the 24,000 concerns that we received, just about 7,000 has been addressed. Most of them relates to water and electricity. It's about houses, and it's about burst pipes, meters, sewage drains, and so on. So if there is preventative maintenance, if the municipality have teams on the ground, you should be in a position to address that. Chair, one question on the next slide was about ward committees. I can say all municipalities need to ensure that they have functional ward committees. Currently, it's only the city of Tshwane, and they have written a letter to us where they have indicated that they have a process map in place. By the 30th of November, they would have appointed all ward committees. And I've seen some letters that has been written by the executive mayor to us. Chair, on the next slide, and I think important here to note is, this is the part where the biggest portion of the questions was centered on. And you will see in each area, we do not just decide, Chair, this month we want to focus on Lesedi and Midvaal. Next month we want to focus on Mogale City. It is based on the unique challenges that that municipality has, so that we need to intervene. For instance, with Lesedi and Midval, we had to focus on revenue, and you can see the increase in revenue from 2020 to 2021. But importantly, and I always impress upon the municipal managers when I meet with them, once we put experts there and it's supported by both Treasury and Cogta, can we make sure that by the time we leave the work in a set of capable hands to reduce the reliance on consultants? That is the key thing in municipalities that often hampers the delivery, the financial sustainability of municipalities, because a big portion of the amounts go to consultants. On the next slides, we're just sharing with you the impact on revenue potential, the work that we have done when it comes to smart meters, issues relating to illegal connections, and so on, Chair. Chair, on the part where you deal with large power users and large water users, if you have your tariff structure properly attended to in municipalities, that should be the area where the municipalities make the biggest portion of revenue, and that particular portions of money can then be allocated and earmarked for infrastructure delivery. But what we have found is you do have a number of large power users, you do have a number of large water users, and we have attached the list for the members as requested on slide 23. But if you have losses, it limits your ability to collect revenue. Over the last month or two, we have seen that municipalities increase losses in excess of 25%. And saying 25%, that is very economical. And 25% means if you need to pay R1 for your water, or 1 kiloliter of water from the municipality to rent water or to Eskom for electricity, because of your losses, 25 cents of those you are paying for and you cannot recover. So what does it mean? If you need to, you then have a 75 cents that you need to recover. From that, you have indigents in the municipality, people that can't pay for services. You need to support them. You reduce that portion. There's non-payment, which means your revenue base, which you have based on your budget, have significantly reduced. You then don't pay Eskom, you don't pay rent water, the large power users take you to court, and then the large power users pay directly to Eskom. We have seen in the case of Mfuleni. So it's that why for us, it's important to focus on large power users to make sure that they can be accounted for, they pay for services, the metering are properly done, and the municipality have a stable revenue base. And we have just included that for the members. Chair, on any matter that relates to a project of this magnitude, you need to first conduct an as-is assessment, as we look on the next slide. The assessment then look at your data analysis, your reviews, implementation plans needs to be developed, but then we also then do corrective measures and we implement and we monitor. That's the biggest portion of the work that we need to do, and that cuts across all the interventions that we need to make. Some of the key things when it comes to municipal support that came out of the work that we need to do is property management, revenue planning, billing and collections, management of losses, and then also customer and query management. In the past, municipalities were very strong on customer services management. Currently, that particular function has been relegated to a mere administrative function, and that's one of the reasons why citizens are complaining. Part of the work of Cogta is also to ensure, can't we ring fence and support municipalities to create customer services centers so that the citizens can have a responsive government, and that is key for us, Chair, as we continue with the work that we are doing. Chair, of course, in some municipalities, if you look at the state of municipalities as pronounced by the Minister of Cogta, over 60% of municipalities are in financial distress. If they are in financial distress, it means a number of other areas, including governance in the municipality, will then suffer. Mfuleni in Merafong is a case in point, and that's why you will see the support that we provide from slide 28 onwards is very clear. If we can't deal with large power users, revenue management in that particular areas, we can just as well close down the municipality, because you need to have revenue to sustain. But you also need revenue to make sure that you can build on the infrastructure. And you do get grants from the municipal, from national government. And you don't need that grant, or you don't need to go to your citizen to ask for money. You get that grant from national. If you don't spend the money, you can't do anything else with that grant. National takes the money back. And that is part of the capacity that we want to support municipalities on and see how we can accelerate infrastructure delivery and so on. But the biggest challenge, Chair, in that area also is, I feel that as Cogta and the provincial treasury goes into support, there is often a hands-off approach from municipalities. And that is concerning because it means there will be no accountability once the teams move out, even when you have new staff members appointed. Chair, on the next slide, we're just sharing with you where we are when it comes to some of the pitfalls and the successes when it comes to Mfuleni. Everything boils down. If you look at the first point of dysfunctionality in municipalities, forget the issue of coalition governments, look at the leadership of the municipality. Is all MMs appointed? Is all senior managers appointed? Do we have a sound base for governance in the municipality? In most cases, all the answers to that will be no. And then you know it will be a dysfunctional municipality. I often say to the head of legal, Chair, I need to have more power as the HOD over municipality. So if a municipal manager don't perform, I want to have the right to dismiss that municipal manager. But the head of legal disappointed me by saying I don't have that power. So, Chair, but that's some of the challenges that you are sitting with in municipalities. Chair, capacity building will form a key part of our work, and capacity building in terms of financial governance. Financial governance means supply chain management processes. Don't spend a budget that was not earmarked for that particular project. Put a process in place where the budget is reallocated and you implement a new project to avoid incurring irregular expenditure, wasteful and fruitless expenditure. They need to understand, if your supply chain management regulations say 500,000 and above, you go out on tender. If it's an emergency, treat it as an emergency. I often say to the teams in my department as well, Chair, that if we have an emergency like in Joburg, if we need to procure for humanitarian relief for those citizens, on the day of the emergency, whether it happened in the morning or the evening, we must prepare the memos the same day or the following day. Say, this is an emergency. We need to deviate from supply chain management procedures to procure these to assist with humanitarian relief. You can't procure 3 months down the line and now you say it's an emergency. The AG will tell you straight there is no emergency in that. You use the deviation process to flout the procedures. All these will then be declared irregular. So these are the biggest portion of our work, and part of the audit outcomes, I would like to see how our efforts in this area have bear some fruit, specifically in those areas. Chair, we've seen an increased number of cases in municipalities, from generic labor relations cases, generic legal cases that the municipality cannot deal with. We're sitting with cases in Merafong where we could unlock a potential 300 to 500 million in revenue from the mines if we deal with some of the property evaluations where there's a dispute. And we just decided to carry on and on and on, but we have just made a decisive decision with the MEC. Let's finalize the court matters, let's go into a settlement. Currently, you do not have a cent in your banking account to pay for anything. But just agreeing to a 50% settlement, something that will not happen in the next 10 years, you can have about 500 million in your banking account. What is more important, the sustainability or an ongoing court matter where you pay legal advisors to fight the case? So that sort of sense of discipline is what we need to cut across when it comes to legal and also labor relations matters. If the municipality have made a mistake, you have dismissed the person, you should be in a position to be man enough to say, we have flouted procedures there. Can we bring the person back and allocate? Now you pay the person a salary every month, that person is sitting at home. And the same principle applies to departments, the same principles apply there. Where we have made a mistake, we must make we must say that we have made a mistake. Let the person come back, let the person continue to work. Otherwise, you are not going to fix the legal and labor relations problem. But just that level of expertise, Chair, has been eroded in municipalities. It's for that reason, the increased support on legal and labor is something that we need to drive forward. Contracts management, issues of supply chain, vetting of legal documents, and so on. And even going down to give us the top 10 labor cases in the municipality so that we can vet them and give you our view. And whilst we give them our view, I would love to have powers to say you will accept the view, but we can only advise them. It goes through a council process and council make the decision. So those are some of the areas. Chair, just lastly on the IDP process, what we want to do is we do have structured sessions with municipalities. We bring in all sector departments where we do an analysis of IDPs. IDPs do comply, but IDPs is not always a true reflection of what's happening in the community. And I want to get to a stage where we say the IDP must be a true reflection. You can have an IDP and there is minimum requirements for an IDP, but you should have an IDP that is linked to your budget. And those areas that is also important can form part of an annexure of your IDP. So if there is additional funds, if revenue generation increase, if you get additional capital grants, those can then be used for all of those. But the IDP process is robust enough. One area that we have identified that we should focus on, and we have seen all the disaster that has happened, the fire in Albert Street in Johannesburg, is as a result of the non-compliance with bylaws. And we need to ensure that we strengthen the compliance with bylaws as part of the process. Chair, the next few slides give you a sense of the improvement in the appointment of municipal managers since the end of the financial year and up until now. The same applies to the chief financial officers. There is an improvement. The vacancy rate has reduced as it is currently from 35% to about 28%. And we are compelling municipal managers to report. Chair, I was also saying to the team that our IGR forums, including the MEC's one, needs to be restructured. Once we report to the municipalities, this is the current state of the municipality in terms of finances, governance and service delivery. We should allow them to come back to the IGR forum and present an improvement plan on how they're going to remedy that, as opposed to the department and treasury always presenting reports. But they need to come back with a remedial plan so that we can monitor the implementation of that plan. Chair, the other part is just the IGR structures, and I've reported on the IGR structures. We also have the section on underspending. The underspending under municipal administration is mostly as a result of 2 senior management positions that has not been filled, and in the other area there was also an assistant director and a deputy director that hasn't been filled. And Chair, we're taking a very hard approach with these. If a position becomes vacant, it does not mean that the position will just be filled. I expect the line managers to critically evaluate that particular position and then ascertain whether it needs to be filled. And only then the position will then be filled. Chair, I think I've covered most of the questions. The ones that I have skipped was generic, and I trust it has been regarded as read. Chair, let me stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, HOD. We're going to hold on to quarter 2 as we had explained. I think it was sent to our team a bit late, so we'll receive that next week. So members, you've received the annual report at a high level, which I know you've seen before. And of course, I did ask the HOD to go into some level of detail on the questions because that is what the committee as a whole wanted to speak to. So let me start by noting Member Diaga, Member Ngube, and then I'll come in at the end, and then we'll hand over back to you, HOD and MEC, for response.
Thank you, Chair. My comments, or what I'm saying is rather comments and not so much questions. I did like what the HOD was talking about, the panel of executives, and we see that especially in some of the municipalities where appointing city managers can take forever, or incorrect city managers, etc. And yeah, what I do want to just caution against is that we do not have a acting city manager for longer than 3 months, and I think we understand in terms of the Labour Act, and we just need to be clear on that. A next point that's very close to my heart, and I know in terms of Johannesburg how it works, I can't speak for the other municipalities, that's the issue of incorrect billing that leads directly to the financial distress of our municipalities. And there is a way that it can be fixed. And it is a process that we previously went through, and in my previous role, we came up with a plan on how to fix it. The then mayor decided, or he gave in to the muscle of the unions and one of the other political parties and abandoned that process. But it's quite simple. We need to be sure that entities have, at the very least, at least full viewing rights of billing. So it's up to an entity to decide whether the billing is done correctly, and where changes are made, must be made, that they have full view of that. It's not to say that they must be able to fiddle with figures, etc. But I'll tell you what's currently happening in Johannesburg. It is the Revenue Department will tell City Power to go read so many meters. And they tell them where to go and read the meters. And City Power officials will then go out, or meter readers will go out, they'll read the meters. It might be raining, they might be eating a Coke and eat a packet of chips or something, and as it happens, there's a mess on whatever they write down. And then eventually they come back to the office, they take all this data that they collected, and they throw it over a proverbial wall. And on the other side, you have Revenue Department sitting, and maybe they're catching it, and maybe they're catching it incorrectly, but in the end, people get incorrect billing. Now, if you allow the municipalities or the entities to have proper oversight over the billing, that will not happen. Then you can hold the entities to account and expect them to then account for what the incorrect billing or the lack of revenue collection. At the moment, City Power, Johannesburg Water, cannot be held accountable for incorrect billing because they have no viewing rights. They have no right to input. Whatever they gave, hopefully gave over to Revenue Department, hopefully somebody has collated the correct data. But we know what happens. And then it is also in the city of Johannesburg, as in, I'm sure in all the other municipalities, you have the most state-of-the-art system of GIS. That GIS can tell you exactly which customer is connected, which stand is connected to water, electricity. The GIS system is just, if you just put water connections over impose it over your stand number, you can see where your missing customers are, or a stand without a water meter. Same thing applies to your electricity. You can then also see where there's fluctuations in usage. Now, especially on the side of City Power, we're not worried so much about your residential property, or that shouldn't be your focus. It's the 63% of large power users. That's where your focus should be. And if there's some big fluctuation in the power usage, we know there is a problem with that property. So what I'm saying is we should use the technology. We should encourage municipalities to use the technology at their disposal to solve the problems. So that's just one of my suggestions. But then also what I think is very important is that us, as the committee chairperson, we should have better idea of what is in the IDPs of municipalities. And I remember when I was in the municipality before, I was always amazed that when we go and do all these IDP meetings, there is nobody from the education department attending. There's nobody from sport and recreation, there's nobody from community safety, but mostly questions that come up in an IDP would be about those departments. It's not so much about city power, it's really about those critical entities in the province. So what we should also be doing is encouraging our officials from Gauteng legislature to participate in the IDP process, but also if we as a committee are informed, we can inform our respective caucuses so that people can know what to look out for, what's supposed to happen, but we don't know. And it makes it a lot easier for us not to know when it comes to the municipalities than when we do know. So, or rather, it makes it easier for them if we don't know, because we can't hold them to account. So those are just 3 of my contributions, and I hope it will be taken in the good spirit that it's delivered. Thank you.
Thanks, Member Diago. Member Ngube?
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable MEC and your team, about your report. I was listening to the AG yesterday, who was very happy about the kind of the support that the department is doing in the municipalities, with the exception of maybe 4 or 5 of them. And also thanking also the committee that is doing oversight over local government to say there is an impact in terms of the red flags that have been there in most of the municipalities. However, he emphasized the irregular and unauthorized expenditure to Rand West, Mfuleni, Mrafong, I think in Kagiso, which he was causing the oversight from ourselves that we need to also raise and look into it in terms of our oversight so that they improve on what is happening. But also let me also emphasize, because previously before you took over, we were not seeing the impact of the officials that are deployed at the municipalities. But as he was talking yesterday, there is an impact, and also the pressure that the portfolio is exerting. So keep it up. The rate of unemployment, which is 62%, and there are millions in terms of unauthorized. Where is that money going to if they can't account no supporting documents and whatever? Whereas there's a lot of vacancies that are not filled. If they don't have money, why spend the way they are spending without supporting documents? 62% when there's a high rate of unemployment is really, really unacceptable. Yes, we may understand maybe they have a lot in their plate, but the fewer they are, there is no impact in terms of service delivery. Let me also indicate that the issue of wrong billing with Joburg in particular has been there from my history as a former provincial treasurer of COSAT, raising it with the now chairperson of the NSOP, that what is the cause of this high billing? And people then, if they see that, no, it can't be that I'm paying 80,000 whereas I'm staying alone or we're only 2, why it doesn't get resolved? And we're faced with it. Now it has extended to other metro municipalities, which is the wrong thing, because at the end, for instance, it's there now in Tshwane. That's why maybe their situation in terms of their finances are in a dire strait. So that needs to be looked into. Why? Don't they have people that go there physically rather than them sucking the meters that no, this one is spending such and such? Because it encourages and it's a contributory factor to non-payment of the services. The other one is the like Honorable Diakhere was talking about. We need to look into the municipalities' IDPs. I once asked one councillor, a former MMC, to say, why are we having finished houses or flats with no water and electricity? Because then the province will say, no, the municipality has not put in electricity and water. Whereas maybe in planning, they were not involved in planning so that they know that human settlement is going to be building flats that site. And then the question of ensuring that as those flats are finished, there's a flushing, there's water, there's electricity, so that they don't get abandoned for 10 years because there is no electricity and there's no water. And it invites people then to take over, and then they stay there illegally. So, but it's because they've been looking at these flats or these houses unoccupied, whereas they don't have houses. I think that thing, because that is why the Department of Human Settlement was called Human Settlement, so that it's not only houses, but those that sports, for instance, and agriculture, they have to build libraries there, education, you have to build schools there rather than just houses. So the whole principle of human settlement is still missing in practice in terms of why did we call it a human settlement. So let me just end there and say the impact of SCOPA, of the portfolio and your officials, they are seeing, but there are still red flags that are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ngube. I also have a couple questions, partially covered by members, but I still need to understand on the state of finances for Gauteng municipalities. If you look at it, there seems to be a deterioration since the introduction of coalitions. So already prior to coalitions, we had a problem with municipalities having money. Now it's even worse than before. I mean, I won't belabor the point. We know there's governance mismanagement, political instability, you name it, it's there. But I want to know, related to that, and also MEC, if you look at the report that you've given us, number 4, vacant CFO positions in municipalities across the province. Exactly, we're going to have a problem. And I think it's also important to note that the AG is zooming in on a lot of these. My side here is getting good audit outcomes, clean audit outcomes, and that's excellent. But it's not City of Ikuruleni, City of Tshwane, Mfuleni, Merafong, Lesedi, Midval, etc. Everybody needs to consistently have, number 1, because you can have clean audit outcomes and still not do the right thing. I know this, it sounds shocking, but it's possible to come out with a clean bill and still not do what you are meant. The other questions, especially in the Q2, which is what you'll present next week, will be quite viable, because we're looking at the annual report for the already happened. Q2 is the one that's happening at the moment, and that's why it would have been nice for our stakeholders to see that as well, to see what's happening right now. HOD, MEC, let me hand over to you guys first, and if there's follow-ups.
Okay. No, thank you very much. I would finish. Look, we do accept unnecessarily suggestions that we should be taking home as a member Diakhere to member Ngube. We've noted some of those issues. issue of incorrect billing system, I think it's an indictment to all of us, given technology so advanced that we shouldn't be discussing. I think the biggest problem there is that municipalities, they want to resolve this all by themselves, and different technologies that can help us to do that, who also lobbying and want to be in business, all of, and the choices that we're making are in the IGR. We are going to really engage municipalities, Chair. The rest day, we want to ensure that we, through make a decision on what technology we should be using in the province. Find that technology in Midval, so let's do it. If you find it in Ekurhuleni, so we look at all these things, all the technologies that have been used now. They've not moved to the new technology. We'll have to come in also in terms of innovations that can help us to resolve some of these issues. I think that's one point I wanted to emphasize on. Indigent also, because it is important. Are not able to pay because they are not working, and separate those who can pay from those who, because there are people who can pay who are paying. The consequence of that is that it is devastating to some of the community members. If you look at the policy of ESCOM, for instance, what they do, if there's a low payment of electricity in a particular area, they apply what they call electricity reduction. Now, the problem with electricity reduction is that you are paying, I'm paying, we get affected. She is not paying, and we get affected equally. So it's not really helping. It really bring tensions in communities and so on. So we want to look at a technology that can help all of us in that regard. And you made a point, for instance, if you look at the GIS, you build from GIS and bring other technologies that can really help us to sort out the problem. And I agree with you. In some instances, put more of your effort to the large power users, right? Yes, measures to the smaller ones, but the large ones. If you get it right there, there's a possibility of a municipality sustaining itself financially speaking, rather than depending on, because sometimes the small users as in your communities become the easy targets, because we can switch off electricity and do all sorts of things. I agree on the IDPs, and I think the issues that you are raising for me serves as advice to us. I do not think that we're doing well there. Safe compliance, yeah, and they submitted to us. We looked at them, we wrote back to them, we told them that, but I don't think we're going deeper on what's to be done. For instance, there's an issue that, Chair, you raised around economic development. Most of municipalities are not performing this function very well. There is no economic strategy that seeks to address the levels of unemployment that we're having. You've got an economic division or unit, people working there. All that they're doing, they're running some projects, small Anyana project there and there, and the equality economy. There's no economic analysis of the area that they are operating on, and what's to be done to change the economic outlook of that particular area. So we've got to go a bit deeper there on our IDPs, and I agree. For instance, one of the issues, many of the IDPs that we have coming from a number of municipalities are not linked to the budget. IDP is there, it's almost a wish list, and the budget is something else. So you've got those particular problems. So we're noting those issues. we're noting issues that the AG has raised. And I think yesterday we were emphasizing the Section 131 of MFMA, which seeks to help us to work in a more focused way on how to improve the audit outcome of the municipalities. And also bringing us together. So municipalities can't say you are interfering, because that prescript or piece of legislation is a legislation that enable all of us to can work together as municipalities. And so we're going to be really doing a lot of work with municipalities, focusing on Section 131, which I think would help us a lot going forward. The issue of, look, I think a lot has been said about Mfuleni, and I think we must reach a stage where we focus on how we help that particular municipality. You see, Chair, part of my reluctance to dissolve municipalities is Mfuleni. Because the biggest question I ask myself is, with all the interventions that have been made in Mfuleni, what came out of it? Is there anything better that came out of it? And my conclusion is that there isn't anything better that came. In fact, that municipality came out worse. If you want to, you can also make analysis with Tshwane, where we make interventions and so on, and ask the same question. I think you will come to the same conclusion as such. So what is my point? My point is, I think we should approach Mfuleni differently. Differently in the sense that whether you do oversight and so on and so on, the intention must be to help Mfuleni out of the situation that it finds itself in. And which is what we're doing. For instance, let's take the issue of the sewer spillage. If you go to Mfuleni and the roads of Mfuleni, if you go to Mfuleni, the sewer spillage is all over. And it's not only happening in Mfuleni, unfortunately, it is happening in all townships. Amongst others, because of the underground infrastructure is old, and there is no plans from municipalities to ensure that there's maintenance of that infrastructure. It took them a bit of time when a proposal was put on the table by Rand Water, because Rand Water said, let's establish a special purpose vehicle that will bring us together, the municipality and Rand Water, in a business manner, help us to intervene. One, to ensure that they fix all the sewer spillages that is happening in that part of the province. Two, ensure that the revenue generated from water, from sewage and all of those is reinvested into that particular infrastructure. Because our biggest problem is that municipalities do generate revenue from different functions that they have, be it electricity, sewer, and any other. But the problem is that they are not reinvesting back to those infrastructure, because those monies are then taken and used somewhere else to pay workers who are doing some work somewhere and so on, and not necessarily within that discipline. So this approach we are coming up with, Chair, is going to force municipality to reinvest. What do you call it?
Ring fence.
Ring fence. Yeah, that's the word I want. Thank you. To ring fence back to the infrastructure, back to the relevant infrastructure as such. Once we can get that right, it would emphasize the fact that municipalities must have funded budgets. It's going to be difficult for municipalities to fund all in the district municipality if you want to take because the law says and all of those kind of things. I can tell you with my eyes closed now that you can take any housing structure. They simply don't have money for that. It's worse now. The bigger municipalities. Fortunate thing, however, is there are grants, some of, in particular, housing, go there and see what's happening. A bulk of those grants get returned to Treasury, to National, gets returned to Treasury. The minister the other time was saying to me, isn't it that it's time for us to make, to review this thing of the delegation of housing to these municipalities? Maybe we should take it because it does appear they are not able to perform that delegation in a manner that is expected and so on. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things that we should be engaging ourselves, and whether these things have to do with the capacity that is there in the municipality. I think we must move to a situation where we must force all municipalities to appoint people with relevant capabilities and skills. And I want to emphasize the two, because I can come there with a qualification, but if I don't have the capabilities and the skills, I'm going to, so I'm going to mess up there and all of those. And I think we must move there and emphasize those kind of things. There's a process of a single administration and professionalizing those administration. I think we need to emphasize that. It goes together with the question that has been asked around the fact that our municipalities are deteriorating since the advent of coalition government. I agree with you. These coalition government, I've got an extreme view about them, unfortunately. And I check where I am to express some of my views. But I think one of the things that these coalition government are really creating is that they are politicizing municipalities too much. Now, I looked at how our colleagues in Ekurhuleni were tackling each other. So a particular department is headed by a fellow from the EFF. Another department is held by a fellow from the ANC, the other one from ATM, and so on and so on. So something wrong happens in the finance that is headed by EFF. The ANC people issued a statement condemning, right? But the point is they're in the same government. You get what I'm trying to do? They're in the same government, they're same in the mayoral committee, they are led by the same mayor, they are collectively responsible for their action in that particular municipality. You see what that thing is going to cause. So it creates smaller governments on the basis of who heads what. We are not going to be able to run government like that. I can tell you now, we're gone. Communities are going to suffer under that kind of a government. So individuals are running. So we can look at you when you do wrong things and then go to a press conference. But we sit in the same mayoral committee. Clearly, my view is that we're not ready for coalitions. We're not ready. And for me, it's in the hands of the citizens or residents of this country. They must make up, you stakeholders, make up your mind. What do you want? It's really in your hand. This thing is not working. I mean, it was a big noise. Yes, people want to hold each other accountable, but the manner in which it's been done is wrong. Yeah, they're part of it in any way. I mean, if I'm an MEC of finance and you're accusing me of something that, look, I don't have a department that, I don't procure necessarily. I coordinate procurements that happen. You might find that you're condemning on something that happened exactly in your department. Ultimate end of paying and so on, there's different departments. But the manner in which we want to hold each other or we want to govern in the context of coalition government, I think it's going to collapse us. Indeed, Chair, Johannesburg is deteriorating. Tshwane is gone. Yeah, Tshwane is gone. Ekurhuleni is fast getting there. And it will be unfortunate. I know I'm under pressure. Everybody calls me, when are you dissolving? And they give. like what maybe you must just dissolve. People are, I'm under pressure every time. And my response is, how is it going to help us? I want to emphasize the fact that if we can strong administrators that are professional, whose responsibility involved in politics. Take Johannesburg. The city manager issue is already muddied. It's in politics. Because right from the beginning, so if we warned and say, hey, look at the bigger issues here. But themselves remove themselves from business there. Because we are not going to get it right. Because the outcome of that is going to... So we've got to go there. I think the School of Governance and so on, and everybody who is in... do that. Because the consequence of that is that then they elect a mayor, not... You want to come and help us to... You turn around and say, I'm the... you are there. And when we kick you out, you what? And you might find that we're kicking out. Particularly, and because my view is that we must build resilient administrative services to the people. This thing of 5 years, the corridor, there are some council fellows, they are talking about it. We are humble, they don't see. So the last 2 years you are looking for a job, you did nothing for that. And that's it. Why must I remove you and say, I want an ANC? No, it doesn't work like that. Law is law, isn't it? If you're an economist, you're an economist. If you are an engineer. If we can leave these other things that puts us in the chamber where when there's a political... But politics will remain politics in any way. It's going to be difficult to control the politics or regulate. We can regulate, but to what extent? You can't regulate the conduct of politics. You can regulate procedures that they must follow and all of those things, but as to how they conduct their business, it's something else. So, Chair, let me leave it there and ask the HOD to come in. Thank you. I hope I didn't take a lot of your time.
Okay. Chair, thank you very much. I think MEC covered most of the points. I think what we need to look at, Chair, if you want to look at some of the links to the poor administration, is one part where it's people that's on contract, and the other part is the fact that they know there's political instability in municipalities. You don't attract the right skills. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we are facing. Other than that, the MEC covered everything. One thing that I think as government we should do more is the community activation programs that's done by the Department of Economic Development.
My goodness, we haven't spent our money. Then they come to infrastructure and say, can you please quickly spend this money for us? Yes, we can. City Power, for instance, or Eskom for that matter. It can't be are responsible for distribution, for transmission, for generation, as well as the infrastructure. That's when things get a little bit clouded. So I think that when you look at new infrastructure, it should also be a weighted process. Before you put new infrastructure, be sure that your existing infrastructure will still be functional to generate the necessary capacity, because it is the existing infrastructure that is bringing in the money, not future infrastructure. So we need to be sure that and that for that matter, any project on the IDP, once a project is on the IDP, or a project becomes part of a wish list, it should be weighted in a matrix, and it should then only be allocated based on the need for that project. When we talk about the IDP, we then look at when the engagement, the public participation happens. And here's the shocker. The public participation in the IDP happens in April every year. Guess what? By the time you get the IDP, the budget was already decided. So nothing of what you want on your wish list is going to come in this year. And even next year, things have changed. The engagement should happen in November, when there's still time to influence and change. And in April, there should still be an engagement, but that is to present what will happen. So an engagement on a wish list in November, an engagement on what's on the table in April. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, can I just, before you conclude?
Okay, Member Ngube has a quick follow-up, then you can respond one.
No, thanks, Honourable Chairperson. I just want to say, Honourable Chairperson, we started with the oversight and we're very much happy about what we found at the Disaster Management Center. However, there are some that relates to funding of some other projects there. But you still have a room of maybe motivating so that that project it doesn't have to stop. There are some minor issues that need some maintenance so that they continue with their job. Honourable MEC, I also serve in infrastructure. There are highly qualified officials there, including the project managers of these buildings that are incomplete for more than 8 years or 7 years, and today they're still incomplete. A contractor is appointed, they build up to a quarter or half, and then they claim that they don't have cash, and then the contract gets terminated, another contractor is appointed, and then they don't finish, and another one, and all those. But the project managers who don't monitor these things. So I don't know, there is something that our employees need to know, that they're serving the government of the day, not a person. And if I'm the project management of this, I must ensure that it is built up to the end, and that money, because it becomes multi-millions that get to the drain, or people disappear with it. I even said maybe those people, those contractors are in Dubai, living a high life there. No, I don't want to say anything except that it's good work that you're doing there. If you can just fix that.
No, thank you very much. I think the one issue I wanted to speak to, I know that you've not covered it because it's a matter that was allocated to us in recent times, is because we're also responsible for the energy interventions in the province. We're chairing the sub committee for the ESCO. But specifically, we're intervening on this program that we call SIA Transformer. In other words, we made a quantification of the extent of the problem of these transformers. And I can tell it's affecting more than 2 million people in the province who were supposed to have electricity. They don't have it, not because of load shedding or any of that, but because of the issues of transformer. And let me tell you, to the stakeholders in particular, we're going to spend a whole lot of money there. First, it's not our competency. I'm just hoping that the AG is going to be kind on us. That's the first thing. But the second point is we're going to spend a lot of money. I'm sure you've got the figures, if not. Yeah. We have 2.2 billion put set aside for that. But just to buy those transformers, it's well above 300 million or whatever. What is the point that we want to make? So we took a decision. We're going to do that. We know ESCOM has got its own standards. 60% of people must have paid. We're not doing away with those measures, by the way, because we think they are good measures. Remember, whilst you want to intervene, but you pushing towards people paying for services, but there's nothing for mahala in a sense. But once you are doing that, you also want to ensure that the basic services, people do have them. So we have started to put up this transformers. The greatest risk around them is you'll put it today, tomorrow it has blown. Two things, there are these people who just come and steal them. but also there are those who will come and illegally connect more, overload it. Now, in government terms, that's going to be called fruitless expenditure because it did not perform its work. So we want to make a call to communities to help us to preserve and protect those. I was in one ward 14 in Sebokeng, for instance. They even have mobilized young people there who literally are guarding, and they have shifts and the activities that are taking place along those almost every night and so on and so on. And there's a clear message that we found you up there. The manner in which you'll come down won't be pleasant. They told me of one story, what they did there. So we want to ask communities to do that. Please take care of that because it's bad. I listened to a number of community members who told us how these things were affecting them, particularly those who on medical grounds must have electricity. It's a sad story. One old lady says, I'm staying alone. One of the weapon of protection is my cell phone. And I ask her, how so? He says, because if anything happens at night, I'm able to call so and so. But without this phone, if a child just gets sick, I know the mother is there and so on. There's nothing. I don't have a car. I don't have anything. Right? Just a cell phone. And I realized the importance of a cell phone beyond what we're using it for. And so on. So let's try to take care of this program. That let's ensure that these things are protected. If not, I can tell political people they were going to fight over it because they're going to say, MEC, you're wasting money. We told you your people are not. They don't want to pay these people, and all of those kind of things. Part of it, of course, is that whilst we're discouraging illegal connection, we want those who are illegally connected to be legally connected properly. And they must be accommodated and not these things that we are doing. I thought let me talk to that. On the disaster management, no, on the qualified, I agree with you. MEC Maile says to us, I've got DID with a lot of qualified engineers and planners, whatever the people they are. My observation generally, including what we have in the department and in the eGov and so on, particularly in eGov, we have a lot of people who are having skills around development of technology and so on and so on. But I can tell none of them are developing any technology. No. Their work is to do terms of reference for a service provider to develop a technology and they monitor that. That's what they're doing. You find the same thing in the DID, for instance. With constrained people, they can't work beyond all that. When we remember terms of reference quickly for us, because we want service providers to. If you go to municipalities, that on its own eroded the functions and the authority of municipalities. Eroded, because there are certain simple function of municipality, terms of reference, service provider. I was saying the other time, there was a EFF, ANC, they're debating the insourcing and so on. I said, this thing of outsourcing, insourcing must be put in a proper context. For me, it's a debate that seeks to say, what are the functions that a municipality must perform? And those functions must be performed by municipality and municipality only. And what are those functions that, on the basis of certain aspects, you can outsource? Because even there, people are just playing politics. I was saying to the MEC or for MMC for financing in Ekuru, are playing politics. Nitenia in-source, Niangena and outsource. It doesn't help us. So we've got to look at all of those. Because I was not expecting that I was disappointed, to be honest, with the security outsourcing in Ekuru Lane. Controversies around it. We'll see how where it ends. But because I was not expecting that. The people in charge said to us, we're insourcing. And when they're supposed to insource, they outsource. Can't see what is the problem. So we've got to do that. Lastly, whilst we are accepting the compliments that you're making around disaster management, but we've pushed the goalpost with the HOD. We said we want a proper disaster management of the future. A disaster management center that will be able to bring all the stakeholders, proper analyzed ecosystem of what constitutes a disaster, and therefore that will enable us to intervene properly. I sometimes get worried. I mean, for instance, in Tatikiba, you know, you're the first that I gave a call when that disaster happened in Johannesburg. Yeah, that road thing happened. So I was home. I don't know what to do. But then we spend time talking amongst ourselves and how best to intervene there. None of us are there to evacuate the people.
Sure.
There's no procedure. People are just walking up and down, taking pictures. And I was like, what if those buildings just went down? What was going to happen? So we are not there yet where we're supposed to be insofar as issues of disaster management. And that's what we're talking about when we talk of disaster management center of the future. Thanks.
All right, thanks. I think we've exhausted the annual report discussion, and I think it's important for our stakeholders to see it. A lot of, it's not very glamorous. It's a lot of documentation, it's a lot of discussion, it's a lot of us going back, checking that what they've said is right. It's a lot of research kind of driven work that becomes very, very important, because so often we get left behind in the devil being in the details. So that's been quite important. MEC, I know you and your team have asked to be released at 3:30, so it's already over that time. But we will be having you guys next week because we need the second quarter, and actually there's a number of things that we need from you guys. Am I right, for next week? And I think that's also a physical meeting. Yes, we'll have the annual for eGov and then the second quarter for both eGov and Cogta. So it's a long day for all of us. Yeah, but I think I really want to thank the MEC and the department for that presentation. And we're going to allow you to leave, but we are going to come to you with some of our stuff that we found at the Provincial Disaster Management Center. Because exactly what you've said. Yeah. And one of the things that we identified there, that there's a protocol, but do people know how the protocol works in terms of evacuation? What do we do? And actually we've seen time and time again, whether it was the floods in Mamelodi, whether it was in town, the fires, etc., we are not well equipped, even as a people, before we even get to a governmental response, even as a people, about what to do in a disaster situation. So we'll be compiling a report, and we'll also be asking some follow-up questions about it. Also around some of the funding, it's also come to our attention that some of the funding for the equipment of disaster management is actually under-resourced. So that's also something that's going to come from us. But I'm going to release the department, and they're going to quietly exit while we deal with one or two very quick internal matters. Thank you very much.
We just want to make one.
Oh, one comment, sure.
We have the new CFO, Miss Mampe. I Zululized it the other time. Hololo. So I said Gololo. I said, it's not Gololo, it's Hololo. And I was like, what is that? And he said, it's in Ndebele. So as part of strengthening government in Gauteng necessarily, there was an engagement between ourselves and the Department of Transport with regard to exchanging the CFO, in other words, our CFO going the other side, their CFO coming the other side, having make analysis of what are the areas that needs to be strengthened and the strength of individuals as such. And to that extent, we then agreed that Ms. Mampe will join us. There she is. She's now our CFO. They want your hand. Yeah. So I'm doing that so that tomorrow you must not be surprised, because you know the other CFO who's been here. You'll see him in the transport. So don't mistake him. He's no more part of us. We have a new capable CFO. We think that she'll be able to take us forward as such. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. With that, we're releasing you. Members, we have just one quick set of minutes to look at. That is of the 2nd of November. I'm going to ask, should I release everyone at once? All right, Jabu's made an appeal to me for you guys as stakeholders to also be kind and release you as well. We're just going to deal with one set of minutes. So if you want to chat to us outside, we'll just need about 10, 15 minutes, but you can also excuse yourselves because I know you've also been here quite a while and you were also on time. Must thank Jabu for that. Right, let's do so quietly. Charlene and Mamtombi, I don't know who between the two of you who's going to be presenting. Okay, right, as you leave, please quietly do so because we're still in an official portfolio committee of the legislature. Can we please get, okay, let's do all of this after. Please, please, please. Now my meeting's being disturbed, Chabu. My meeting is now being disturbed. So let's hold on to it. Either I'm releasing everybody or I'm doing my minutes. So I don't like back and forth. Right, let's get the 2nd of November minutes that can be flighted and you'll present it to us, Charlene.
Thank you very much, Chair. We have minutes dated 2nd of November. First item, opening and welcoming. Apologies. We had one written apology. 3 members were absent, members in attendance. With this meeting, we did research analysis, adoption of the agenda. It was the meeting where we had the joint presentation with community safety that did not take place due to the senior management and the MEC not being there. We did research analysis on the annual performance report for both votes. Adoption of the minutes, which was from the previous quarter on the 24th of October. We had no NCOP bills, no provincial bills, no petitions, no resolutions before the committee, no correspondence. And Chair, you closed the meeting, and yeah, that was it. It was quite a simple meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable members, anyone who wants to make changes to the particular set? Okay, otherwise we can move for adoption.
I'll move to adopt, Chair.
Thank you. Member Ngube?
I second.
Thank you. The minutes of the 2nd of November are duly adopted as they are. Thank you very much, members. There are no provincial bills. Before we go through it, there's just a point.
Thanks, Honourable Chairperson. There are key things there which needs to be followed up. For instance, the e-crime. So go back and identify those things that we still need them back to be done, not now.
Okay. Just to identify them and you can send them to me so I can see, because also the e-crime one, remember we've got our upcoming meeting about that, but thank you for reminding us of that. All right, members, that now brings us to the close of that particular agenda point. There are no provincial bills, there's no NCOP bills, there are no resolutions before us at the moment, no petitions. Let me understand there's no correspondence? None. The date of the next meeting, our committee will reconvene next week on the Thursday, the 16th of November. It is also a physical meeting. We will communicate the exact logistics, but we thank members and we especially thank our stakeholders for joining us, and we thank the staff. Meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you.